Can I gift $100,000 of ibonds to my husband this year and deliver him his $10,000 limit every year for the next 10 years? Welcome back, ibond fans. It's Jennifer at Diamond NestEgg. This question is one of the top 5 questions I've gotten in the past month. Many of you already know about gifting ibonds to a loved one, a legal ibond loophole that I discovered earlier this year that has allowed my husband Marcus and I to bulk up our personal ibond portfolio for 2022 and buy more than the normal annual ibond limit of $10,000. And from what I understand, it's also helped many of you on this channel. In my mind, this loophole is an amazing way for the government to reward and give something back to us super savers during these times of high inflation. And I'm a big fan, as you know. But as so often in life, we also need to ask ourselves, when is a good thing too much? By the end of this video, you'll know how much Marcus and I gifted one another, why those amounts made sense for us, plus some key points that I have right now for folks going down the gifting path to buy more ibonds. Let's start with the 7 key factors you need to think about before bulking up on those gifted ibonds. 1. Any ibonds that are sitting in your gift box undelivered to your recipient are not liquid. No one, neither you nor the recipient, can access these undelivered ibonds and cash them out. So, as it stands now, while you can buy $100,000 of ibond gifts for your spouse, child, or anyone else you want for that matter, all in one go, say all at once in 2022, you can only deliver $10,000 per year to your recipient, assuming that this recipient buys nothing for him or herself that year. What happens though when, say, hypothetically speaking, in 2024, inflation returns to levels of around 2% or below? That's where inflation was on average for the past 15 years or so. This means that you would have only been able to deliver $20,000 of that $100,000 in ibond gifts to your recipient, $10,000 in 2023 and $10,000 in 2024. And it also means that you'd still be sitting on $80,000 of liquid ibond gifts that you can do absolutely nothing with, earning 2% or less at that point, given that your ibond rate is tied to inflation. That is not a risk I'm willing to take with our own money. As our trademark saying goes, everyone's financial journey is different, and I don't know your specific circumstances, but when my husband and I decided on gifting each other ibonds, we went for a 3-year time horizon for delivering the ibonds to each other because we personally feel inflation will run at least that long. That's what we're comfortable with. So Marcus and I, we've each purchased our $10,000 annual ibond limit this year and gifted one another $30,000. And in practical terms, that means we will deliver one another $10,000 of ibond gifts in 2023, 2024, and 2025. Assuming we don't buy any more ibonds in those years. Now, the last time inflation was this high in the 1970s, it did take the government nearly 10 years to bring things back under control. I'm not saying it'll take 10 years to fix this time around, but it's also not exactly like the Federal Reserve has taken out a real bazooka with these quarter basis point, soon to be maybe 50 basis point hikes. So, if it turns out that in 2023, inflation is still raging strong, we'll just buy more ibonds then via our regular annual ibond limit and deliver the ibond gifts that we bought this year to one another at a later date, in later years, when we stop buying ibonds altogether because we feel that inflation is under control and other investments are offering more attractive returns. Personally, by doing it this way, we've accomplished 2 things. First, we've locked in some fairly high and safe returns on our ibond gifts and purchases this year. We've grabbed the 7.12% annualized ibond rate that was set in November 2021. We've also grabbed the 9.62% annualized ibond rate that's projected for May 2022, as well as whatever potentially higher rate that's coming in November 2022. Second, we've kept a reasonable amount of liquidity and flexibility in our portfolio so that we can get out of our ibond purchases and gifts if and when we feel the ibond rates no longer make sense. So for those of you wanting to gift $40, $50, $60, or even $100,000 of ibonds to your recipient, the question you need to ask yourself is, how okay are you with holding large amounts of undeliverable, illiquid ibonds in your gift box that may not be earning you much if or when inflation comes back under control? 2. Annual ibond purchase and delivery limits have changed and may change again over time. Because so many of you have asked about the annual purchase and or delivery limits, here's a brief overview from Treasury Direct's timeline of US savings bonds. Between 2002 and 2007, the annual purchase limit was $30,000 per person via Treasury Direct. Sounds nice now, right? You wouldn't even have to bother watching all my ibond gifting videos. And in the very beginning, you could even buy your ibond online with a credit card. Imagine that. Between 2008 and 2011, the annual purchase limit was reduced to $5,000 per person. And since 2012, the annual purchase limit has stayed stable at $10,000 per person. Now, could Treasury Direct and the IRS raise purchase limits again to help us super savers a little bit in times of an inflation crisis? Perhaps. In fact, according to some folks, including Kevin Warsh, a former member of the Federal Reserve Board, the current administration should raise the annual ibond limit from $10,000 to $100,000. I like these guys. Having said that, the government could as likely lower the annual ibond limit because ibonds are getting too expensive for them. Or they could simply do nothing. And whether changes in the annual ibond limit might impact the gifting and delivery process is also unknown. No one has a crystal ball. All we know right now is that the annual purchase limit is $10,000, and that's the amount that can be delivered in any given year to a gift recipient who has not purchased anything for him or herself. 3. The projected 9.62% annualized interest rate from May is not fixed to maturity. I've gotten too many messages about earning 9+% for 5 years, 10 years, or even 30 years. As I've explained in our ibond videos, this projected 9.62% annualized interest rate for all ibonds purchased between May and October 2022 is fixed for 6 months only from the date of purchase. This ibond composite rate will then change every 6 months for as long as you hold it, based on where inflation is at the time. The rate can go up as well as down, and you'll need to take your personal expectation on how inflation will develop as the basis for your decisions. This video here walks you through how the interest on ibonds works. I've included it below if you want more details. 4. ibonds are not designed to make you rich. ibonds are designed to keep pace with inflation, to protect the purchasing power of super savers like us, super savers who have excess cash in the bank, who want to earn more than the measly rates that savings accounts and CDs are paying right now. ibonds are designed to keep your wealth, not to build it. That's what the stock market is for if you have the right long-term mindset towards investing. No matter which decade you started investing in, if you kept your investments long enough, your average annual rate of return from the S&P 500 beat out the average annual rate of inflation every time, meaning the S&P 500 beat out the returns you would have gotten on an inflation index government bond, like an ibond, every time in the long run. And so while I love our ibonds, we've only put cash into ibonds that was previously sitting in our bank account above and beyond what we needed for our emergency fund. We haven't stopped investing in the market. Our regular contributions to our retirement accounts and our children's 529 plans, they're still going into the S&P 500 and other index funds. This is particularly applicable if you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. But it's also applicable if you're older and a bit closer to retirement. Remember, it's not about getting to retirement, it's about getting through retirement. If you're closer to or even in retirement, your portfolio most likely has more income-producing assets than growth assets. But the point is, you may still need some growth assets there as well. In a nutshell, if your asset allocation was working for you before, it should still be working for you now. But if your income-producing investments and extra cash are not generating you the returns that you want to compensate for inflation, then that's where the ibonds could come into play. 5. Don't forget to add a beneficiary on ibond gifts that you buy. I've added myself as the beneficiary on the ibonds I've gifted Marcus and vice versa. While we hope and pray that nothing terrible and unforeseen happens to either one of us, if something does, the last thing we want is to have to jump through hoops and fire to redeem those gift bonds. If you gift ibonds to a recipient and add yourself as the beneficiary upon purchase, what you would do if your recipient dies before you're able to deliver the gift to him or her is to fill out and submit Transfer Request Form 5511 to Treasury Direct, along with your recipient's death certificate. And according to the friendly Treasury Direct folks I spoke to, you would then become the owner of these gift ibonds. This would have no impact on your annual purchase limit because they're considered a transfer of assets, not a purchase. Now, if you've already purchased ibonds or ibond gifts and have no beneficiary listed, don't worry, you're not alone. I've gotten all your requests and a video going through the topic is coming out in May. 6. Try to avoid delivering gifts as a surprise. Some surprises are nice. Getting $10,000 of surprise ibond gifts delivered to you from mom and another $10,000 of surprise ibond gifts delivered to you from dad also sounds nice. But if that happens in the same year, then it's not that nice. When you ask your recipient for the Treasury Direct number to deliver the ibond gifts to him or her, and you will need this information for delivery purposes, make sure you coordinate with your recipient so that no one else does this in the same year. You do not want your recipient to exceed his or her annual ibond limit. According to my conversation with Treasury Direct on this topic, if this does happen, the excessive amount will be sent back to the gifter, the original purchaser. But it was unclear whether this would be in the form of the original ibond gift to the gifter's Treasury Direct account or in cash to the gifter's bank account. 7. Use the ibond gifting loophole that's there for us super savers right now, if it's right for you. Use it, but don't abuse it. Keep in mind that until recently, very few people cared about ibonds, and even fewer people cared to dig through hundreds of pages of the Electronic Code of Federal Regulations and the Treasury Direct website to find out how to properly buy more ibonds like I did earlier this year. Because quite frankly, who would care about a 1 to 2% return on ibonds relative to the bull market returns we saw pre-pandemic? Well, we're at a different point now with inflation at record 40-year highs, and people are really starting to care. The gold rush towards ibonds is just beginning, and you and we're at the forefront. The more folks start jumping into ibonds and the more people utilize this gifting process to buy more than the annual ibond limit based on the current rules, the more likely that these current rules will be abused by some. So stay reasonable. Think about the delivery issues, the liquidity issues I mentioned earlier about too many ibonds sitting undelivered in your gift box. Think about your own personal outlook on inflation. Don't go out buying $1 million of ibond gifts for your 95-year-old bedridden granny and listing yourself as the beneficiary. Don't round up your 20 best college buddies and do a community round of ibond gifting. Because when stuff like that starts happening, that's when rules will most likely be changed, and this loophole that's there right now for us super savers, that's when it'll be restricted or closed altogether. So use it wisely, but don't abuse it. And if you're new here with us and have no idea about the legal gifting loophole that I've been talking about all this time, then check out this video here. I made the discovery earlier this year, and it's allowed me and my husband and some of the loyal ibond fans on this channel to bulk up our ibond portfolios in 2022. Now, if you haven't bought your first ibond yet and need some help getting started, then this video here is the one you should be looking at first instead. It'll walk you through everything step by step. So happy ibond purchasing and or gifting, and thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget that thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another money saving